Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and thanks for joining me. Today I am sharing a birthday card tutorial featuring a super old but still fabulous inlay die cutting technique. This technique has been around for ages and there are many different ways to do it. One of my favorite ways is to use it with some sort of double-sided adhesive sheets to make the whole process much easier and honestly much faster. The die that I'm going to inlay with today is the Spellbinder's large die of the month for the month of June 2018. This is this pretty white die cut that you see on my desk. There are actually two dies, 2/4 floral dies like this in the June kit. So here's this one and also the other die. So both come in the June large die of the month, which is a subscription program from Spellbinders. Obviously, you can use other dies for this technique. Stephanie Lowe, for example, has a ton of gorgeous similar style dies with Spellbinders, so those would work perfectly, and of course, other dies as well. I've already decided on the color combination for today's card. I'm going to use white, light blue, and we'll also add light gray at the very end. I wasn't planning on using gray at first, but I ended up using it. It just worked much better for the color combo and for the card idea that I had in mind. So before we get to the actual die cutting, I wanted to show you the two other cards that I've made using these dies. I did film a video for those, but honestly, those took just forever to make. And I just didn't want to share something that took like 2 hours to do. Card making should not be complicated. And while these cards do look pretty, I did spend a whole lot of time making them. So I just wasn't feeling comfortable sharing that video with you and, cropping it down to 5 minutes and saying how quick and easy those were to make. So the first one, I did a lot of ink blending with my pigment inks from Avery Elle. This one actually didn't take that long, but it still took longer than usual. I die cut my ink blended background, and then I inlaid it piece by piece into a white frame. And I also have this positive leftover die that I haven't used, and I might still use it at some point later. Now here's the second card. For this one, I made everything from white paper, except for the gray background, so I used white paper for everything. I gold heat embossed the outline. I used my inks to blend the pink and navy paper as I didn't have the right colors of cardstock in my stash, and I just inlaid it all into the gold outline. Because I was trying to find a super simple and quick way to inlay die cutting, it actually took me forever to do because, inlay die cutting, while it really is a cool technique, it is kind of time consuming. So just a heads up. Whenever I work with die cuts, I like to do two things. I like them to be super dimensional, and for that, I often use fun foam to create that impressive dimension, but still keep it very light. You can use cardstock and just die cut a number of cardstock die cuts, adhere them together, and have the same look, but it's going to take longer because of adhering 2 layers, cardstock and a fun foam layer. You're actually adhering 4 or 5 layers together, and that takes time. Another thing I love to use when I do die cutting, and by this I mean any kind of die cutting really, I love to use double-sided sticky sheets to make my die cuts sticky or to turn them into stickers. This is a huge time saver and it works perfectly every time. So here I have a sheet of blue fun foam. I actually usually like to use white, but I don't have any white fun foam left, so I'm using my colored foam today. I picked blue because it is the best match to the color palette on my card. I also have these adhesive sheets from Scrapbook Adhesives, and I'm going to need 2 sheets, one for one side of the fun foam and another one for the other side of the fun foam. So one sticky sheet will adhere fun foam onto my card, and another sticky sheet will adhere whatever die cuts I place on top of it. If you're thinking this is too thick and she'll never going to be able to die cut it, you're actually wrong because those adhesive sheets are so very thin. Unless you're using some incredibly detailed die, this will cut no problem, and you'll see that in just a minute. And do remember that I am using a detailed and intricate die. I am die cutting this in my Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine. My machine sits off to the side. It is a little bit too big to fit in my camera frame, so sorry guys, this is why I'm not showing the actual die cutting process. And here I have it cut, and this cut in just one single pass. I didn't use a shim, I didn't use anything else, I just sent it through my machine and I cut it. It might not cut through the backer sheet of the second adhesive sheet, but it will cut through the foam and through the adhesive without any problems. There are other adhesive sheets on the market. If you use super thin adhesive like this, it will cut no problem. And I know that Ken Oliver has Stick It adhesive that is just as thin. But if you happen to have thicker adhesive, it will not cut through 2 layers. So, I mean, it will cut, but it will just not cut perfectly. So this is just something to keep in mind. I'm going to keep my die cut in the die to remove the backer sheet from my adhesive sheet to adhere this die cut onto a panel. Now, I first adhered it onto a light blue cardstock panel, but by the end of the video, I decided I wanted to use light gray, fog gray cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and you'll notice me make the switch later. So here I'm placing the die cut with the die on my panel, and I'm just using my tool-in-one to press it out of the die and onto the paper. And here I have it, super easy. Now you can totally skip using this fun foam layer. I'm using it here because I like my cards to be dimensional. And I also like the dimension to be even everywhere. So this is a very detailed die. I wanted to use fun foam, and I wanted the fun foam to repeat the shape of my die cut. You can of course use foam squares or foam tape if you're more comfortable with that. Next, I'm going to remove the backer from the outline of the die and adhere a white die cut on top. I've cut it ahead of time, and because I have adhesive there on my fun foam, I just need to align it and press down to adhere in place. So there you can see how much time I'm saving by not adding glue to the back of my white die cut. Next, I'm going to work in sections. I'm going to remove the backer sheet from all the leaves and will inlay those areas with a light blue cardstock, or actually I should say this is my medium blue cardstock. At first, I thought about removing the backer sheet from all of the areas, but I decided to work in sections to make it a little bit easier and just less sticky. This way I don't have too many other sticky exposed areas, and my hand is not getting stuck onto the card, or the tools that I'm using are not getting accidentally adhered onto the card. So I've inlaid the leaves, and next I'm going to remove the backer from the flower pieces and will inlay the petals in place. Now this is probably the most time-consuming part of this whole process, just removing those little negative backer sheets. I've already die cut another layer out of another color of cardstock. This is Audrey Blue by Simon Says Stamp, and all of the cardstock that I'm using today is from Simon. I'm being careful to keep my parts and pieces together. I am aligning them on my card, and I'm using my tool-in-one to press down and adhere them in place. This is by far the fastest way to do inlay die cutting, especially if you have a ton of small pieces. You just line it up with your die cut and use something to press the negatives into the open spaces on your card. Because we already have adhesive there, the negatives will easily grab onto that adhesive and they will stay in place. If you end up having 1 or 2 pieces that didn't want to stay, you can easily reposition those without spending too much time or effort. So that's pretty easy. I was needing 1 extra leaf, so I went ahead and die cut that and inlaid that one into the final little opening. Now at this point, I decided I didn't like that light blue background and I wanted to switch it up to a light gray one. So I used my scissors and I just cut this element out, getting rid of all of the background that I could find. And then I just used glue to adhere my die cut in place onto my fog card front. I should have done that right away, but for some reason, I just thought that that light blue cardstock, I think it was sea glass, would look better. But turns out fog looked much, much better on the finished project. At the same time, I also die cut 1 more floral outline, this time just out of white. And I also added a sticky sheet onto the back of my paper before die cutting it. So I have a sticky die cut here. I'm going to use it to fill in any gaps on my background to create a lace-like floral background for my card. And I'm just going to use my paper trimmer to cut the excess pieces off to get a nice and crisp edge on my card. And I'm actually going to reuse the leftovers to cover the rest of the card background. I feel like this adds a ton of interest to this card and just makes it much more elegant and delicate looking. To create a sentiment for this card, I just stamped Happy Birthday using Messages for Everyday stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I was in need of a birthday card, so I stamped a birthday sentiment for this project, although you can use any other sentiment for this. It can be a wedding card or an anniversary card, anything really. So I cut my sentiment into a strip. I foam mounted it onto the card, and I actually did 2 strips, just, something different. Finally, I embellished this card using pretty sequins in similar colors, and that finished my project. So here's a closer look at this card and also the other 2 cards that I made using the Spellbinders Large Die of the Month for the month of June. On my blog, I also have a few other card ideas created using this die. If you're looking for a full list of supplies to create these cards, you can find it in the video description below and also on my blog. If you're looking to join the Spellbinders Small or Large Die of the Month, I have more information in my video description and also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet done so. If you are a subscriber but are not receiving new video notifications, check the bell icon on the homepage of my channel to get notified every time I post a new video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!